It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. My name is Dr. Cameron Garber, and I'm here with one of our awesome therapists, Melody. And we are excited to come to you and talk more about ascending and descending. So what we mean by that is going uphill or downhill, right? So a lot of runners talk about their ascend, right? How they want to ascend or descend a mountain and climbing and coming back down, the implications of that on running and how we should train for that. Big deal. We do quite a bit of that in Utah, right? Mm-hmm. I know running the races you run, you do ridiculous amounts of that at times.
Right. It just comes down to the training. Like in your race, if you're going to be climbing a lot, you need to climb a lot. If you're going to be descending a lot, you need to descend a lot. And then you have races like that Salt Lake, the marathon that is all downhill.
Oh, yeah. The Big Cottonwood.
The Big Cottonwood Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for that one, you basically, all your running should be straight downhill.
Yeah, you should do a ton of downhill training.
Yeah. Different muscles are working when you're climbing versus when you're descending, and you need to adapt to those things. So
right, absolutely. So you might think, well, why, especially for downhill, why do we have to train that? Like, shouldn't that just be easy running because it's all downhill? Truth be told, ascending and descending are actually some of the areas in which we have the most injuries in running. Mm-hmm. So different types of injuries, though, that we see with each type of training. So with ascending, so with climbing, we see more injuries in tendons, ligaments, or not tendons and ligaments, more muscles than tendons and ligaments. So we see a lot of muscle strains and overuse injuries because there's a lot more force needing to be generated to push you up that mountain. On the other hand, with descending, we see a lot more in the way of overuse of tendons and a lot more kind of bony problems as well.
That's a lot of load.
It's a ton of load. So much more impact, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know some shoe brands have even tried to make descending shoes just for running downhill. Some of them aren't very pretty. But the idea is to help you shock absorb as you run downhill. Unfortunately, I don't know that the science really bears out on that. I think they actually have shown that they make you stomp the ground even harder, so create even more impact.
Plus, they just look super funny.
Yeah, they look kind of goofy with the huge wing coming out the back. But high cushion shoes in general tend to increase your peak impact forces, so you stomp the ground harder to be able to feel the ground. And so, not sure that a cushion shoe is necessarily the answer there either, but the idea of making sure that your form is good so that you're shock absorbing well and you're not getting as much pounding. But we see a lot more bony injuries and stress fractures and things like that with descending. And then it does put different loads through your hips and knees. And so a lot of people, their knees will really bother them. A lot of that is because they don't have sufficient hip strength to keep their knee in good alignment as they descend. So then their knee starts coming across midline. They're really impacting hard into the ground. They're creating a lot of patellofemoral stress, so your kneecap into your femur. So anyway, it can cause a lot of patellofemoral knee pain and other problems like that. And so we want to make sure that transition is much more gradual. You don't want to tackle the big hill, Big Cottonwood. You see people, arrange running groups to go and run down Big Cottonwood Canyon, and
when they haven't been doing any kind of training like that.
Right, a few months out or a few weeks out before the race, it's like, hey, we're gonna run this race, and so let's all meet together and run the course. Mm-hmm. And it may be too much too soon, and you haven't been training it enough.
Oh, it's easy. It's all downhill. I run all the time. I can go run 13 miles downhill. Piece of cake. But if you have not been running downhill, that is going to destroy your body.
Right. Yeah. You got to make sure that your body can adapt to those forces. And so start with a slighter, gradual downhill and build up in both duration and steepness, right? So the length of your run as well as how steep that run is. Build that up slowly over time.
I would also recommend going different paces when you're climbing and when you're descending.
Mm-hmm.
So practice going slow up the hill, practice sprinting up the hill, practice going slow down the hill, practice sprinting down the hill.
Right.
And depending on the kind of race you're training for, you want to think about the kind of terrain you're on. So going downhill on a road is completely different than going downhill on a rocky mountain, right? So
big time.
Take those things in consideration and train what you're going to be racing on.
Right. And you can definitely improve your efficiency and and how, much it pounds your body. So I 100% agree. You should do some of your speed work, both ascending and descending.
Mhm.
So you should practice running downhill really fast, and you should practice kind of what slower feels like, and how to do slow running downhill efficiently. Because some people actually will be less efficient when trying to slow down downhill because they put so much into braking. And so it actually really beats up because they're having to shock absorb so much. So learning to kind of flow downhill better at different paces is really important. So you want to have both a slower pace and a fast pace, because once you get up over the hill, you almost want to use the downhill to recover a little bit. And once you recover, then speed up again. So being able to have multiple gears, both ascending and descending, is really important. Ascending, you really want to be able to know how hard can you push it. And so doing some of those sprints up the hill lets you know, like if it's a shorter hill, do I have enough in reserve to really push it, gain some ground on that uphill, and then be able to relax once we kind of plateau out at the top. And so strategy wise, it's really good, but also from a muscle conditioning wise, being able to climb in different ways, kind of the long, slow, steady. So more of a hike with maybe a pack on. So you're increasing the load capacity and your strength, and then do some sprints. So you're practicing more of that explosiveness up the mountain. So it's easier for you to ascend. Both are important.
And that's another thing, is you want to know how long you can push it for, because there's a difference between sprinting up a quick little hill and sprinting up a Ben Lomond 4-hour mountain climb. Right. So you want to know what paces to hit depending on how steep and how long that climb is.
Right. So you got to make sure, again, that your training matches your goals.
Yeah.
Right. And so depending on what you're looking to do, make sure that your training matches that. So take a look at the course and practice that months out in advance, and start gradual. So don't practice it as in full race replication, maybe right off the bat. Start with a smaller hill and a smaller distance and build up to that, to make sure that you're avoiding injury and not hitting some of those things that we see often get in the way for runners. So that's our Wednesday wisdom tip on how to ascend and descend safely and properly, so that you can make sure you stay healthy and on the road. Thanks so much. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and all those other good things here at Body Smart, so that you can get the rest of our videos and learn some more of our Wednesday wisdom. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.